Hey, what's good, world? This is your man Wood. Pay me no mind. Sports and entertainment show. Again, trying to move more and more content over to the YouTube channel, especially moving into 2018. That's a big goal for that year. Is to review some movies, probably comedy specials, music, maybe some singles. We'll see as I come across different things that I want to talk about that usually I just talk about during the podcast. So anyway, it's gonna be really raw. It's much different than just doing it in the studio with Jr. During episodes of the Pay Me No Mind show. But this week we're gonna talk about Netflix, the new Netflix project featuring Will Smith. It's called Bright. Dropped December 22nd, so that was last Friday. So we'll dig into it. I got some notes here, and probably gonna make a few people mad, but I got some points to make. Um, Real quickly on Bright. First of all, going into it, automatically it reminded me of Alien Nation, which I believe came out in 19. I thought I wrote it down here somewhere before. Yeah, 1988, featuring starring Mandy Patinkin and James Caan, I believe, was the no Mandy Patinkin was the alien in that one. It's kind of eerily similar. You know how close these movies are to one another. But we'll jump into that um, real quickly, though. Bright was, I believe, the first movie that Netflix went and purchased from, just outright, straight to their streaming service, skipping the theaters. And I checked it out last week. The movie stars Will Smith as Daryl Ward, police officer Daryl Ward. Joel Edgerton is Nick Jacoby, the alien. And then I didn't even realize Naomi Rapace. I forget her last name, but she was in Alien, um, not Covenant. Yeah, Covenant. That doesn't sound right. Anyway, moving along. But she stars as Layla. The movie was directed by David Ayer. It was written by Max Landis. The interesting thing was Max Landis was paid $3 million for this script. Netflix went in like a bidding war for $90 million, to have the rights to this film. Just some quick scores on it. Get away from my opinion for a second. Currently on IMDb, the Metacritic score for this right now is 29, which matches on RottenTomatoes.com matches the tomato meter at 29%. Those must be linked together based on like critics, that write reviews of these movies, and uh, it's kind of nowadays that has a lot to do with that impacts how movies perform a lot of times. The funny thing was that audiences have responded to the movie pretty well. Right now, Rotten Tomatoes, the audience score is 88%. Personally, if I had to give it some, if I had to rate it, which we're kind of doing that here, but I'm more or less just talking about it. But if I had to rate it out of 5 stars, I'd probably give it two, 2.5. Just really wasn't my thing. But I don't really need to sit here and bash the movie. I have the feeling that people that like fantasy and like sci-fi, that they're probably gonna rock with the movie. People that sci-fi isn't my number one genre in movies, so I'm just kind of good with it. I gave it a shot, and I have to admit, the last 45 minutes, the last hour, I kind of was just stuck on the. I was just like stuck on the ride and couldn't get off, so I just had to finish it. But really didn't enjoy the picture. I'll get into some of those reasons. I have like 7 reasons, really 4 main reasons, but I'll bring up some other things. One thing I will say is that earlier today, I saw there was an article on Deadline.com where for TV only, 11 million U.S. viewers watched the movie in the first 3 days. So that's I think the movie is a success if we look at it from the audience score of 88%, and then looking at the people that supported it. So, um, and I'm a huge Netflix fan, so this one didn't work for me, but like I said again, it looks like it's working for several people. So I've already wasted enough time. We'll jump into some of this. I want to say from the get go. So I already mentioned that I felt like it was close to Alienation. Let's look at those synopsises real quick. So Alienation first. I'll read some of the synopsis. A few years from now, Earth will have the first contact with and this is on IMDb, first contact with an alien civilization. These aliens, known as newcomers, slowly begin to be integrated into human society after years of quarantine, but are victims of a new type of discrimination. When the first newcomer police officer, San Francisco, is assigned his new partner, he is given Matthew Sykes, a mildly racist veteran. The animosity between them soon gives way to respect as they investigate the newcomer underworld, and especially newcomer leader William Harcourt. Again, I don't remember a whole lot about that movie, but that's the synopsis for 1988's Alien Nation. Now let's jump up to Bright, at IMDb. Um, so this is set in a world where mystical creatures live side by side with humans. A human cop is forced to work with an orc to find a weapon everyone is prepared to kill for. But basically, Bright gets into discrimination against orcs and even like some class struggle or differences between orcs and humans and elves, who were another community that's inhabiting Earth. And it takes place in Los Angeles. I thought the synopsis went a little deeper than that, but maybe it didn't. So, see how those sound? The premises sound very close together. So, looking at some of my notes, um, I'm going to mention Training Day a few times because of some obvious reasons. And I mean, it's in LA. It's a police officer, not really, a crooked police officer, but you'll see why I mentioned Training Day comes up a couple of times on my notes. Right off the bat, with the exception of the first Training Day thing, I guess, is the fact that the former gangbanger that had a role in Training Day, he's actually Will Smith's neighbor in this movie. Um, and they have an altercation or disagreement. Looks like Will is trying to sell his home and move out of that neighborhood, which may be deteriorating at this point. So that's the immediate thing, and then just some of the imagery. The gangbanger. I hate that I don't know his name off the top of my head. I didn't look that up, but he. It just takes me right to Training Day because again he's kind of talking some stuff to a police officer, and that's kind of the character that guy's been typecast in the four movies that I think I've seen him in.